What is up, guys? This is Jared Spalding here, and today I'm gonna be doing a video that kind of shows something that is it almost goes against what everybody believes. Despite what you think, throughout the past 2,000 years, silver has lost a lot more value in terms of the amount of currency it could represent. And I'm not talking about currency like as it gets inflated or stuff like that. I'm talking about how much currency you'd make in a day, that type of thing. You know what I mean? With that amount's always changing because of inflation, but it's gonna net out to the same amount in the end. So like here's what I'm trying to say. I'm gonna be discussing different points in history and the amount of what does an ounce of silver mean throughout history? You know what I mean, compared to today. So that's really bright. But let's look back. Back to Roman times, right? Really long time ago. You know what this ounce of silver right here? Of course, it wouldn't look like this. It would be like it would have been by a silversmith, hammered out. It would look like a poured bar, probably even more crude than that. Wouldn't be all nice and pressed like this MCM bar is. But this, basically, the same amount of weight that I'm holding right here, bouncing in my hand, really easy to hold. This would have represented 10 days of pay back in Roman times. Just take a second to consider that. I believe it was, I'm trying to remember the YouTube. I believe it was Salivate Metal who said how a 10th ounce of silver would have represented a day's pay. And I wanted to really elaborate on that because this 1 ounce bar I'm holding right here in my hand, I picked up for, really cheap. I mean, worth even less now. Right now, its melt value is $16.55. I might be able to sell it for $18. This was 10 days of pay, this weight of silver. I mean, that's ridiculous to think about. And you might be thinking, well, how is silver losing value? I thought silver becomes more and more valuable, right? Well, for one, you shouldn't be investing silver on that premise. I've already talked about it before. You should be investing in silver based on protecting your wealth, not necessarily growing. At least not bullion. Numismatics is where that comes into play, unless there's a bubble or something like that. But the thing is that silver in Roman times and silver today, you're talking about a whole different ballpark. You're talking about something back then that was, extraordinarily rare because so much less silver was mined. It was so much harder to refine. It was almost entirely reserved for royalty. And I mean, even something that's common can become valuable. You look at the tulip bubble, right? That formed I'm trying to remember the year 1657, I think, or 1637. I'm sorry, I think it's 1637. But you look at the tulip bubble, right? Tulip mania, and tulips were relatively common before that. But once that formed, people who had tulips were becoming millionaires. I mean, those were common because, and the big thing is that is what the wealthy wanted. Silver was kind of the same thing. It was reserved almost entirely for royalty. Since silver was so much reserved then at the time, royalty wanted everything. And yes, I did pause the video. I'm not going to try to pretend like that didn't happen. I just remembered where I was at, so I am sorry for that. But anyway, since silver was seen as such a high-class thing, that only royalty could obtain, that gave it even more value, and that gave it fabricated value almost, because, you couldn't possess it unless you were royalty. It made it exclusive, and that made people enticed by it, and then its value at that point, just like a numismatic coin, it's something that only the rich could have, so it was desirable. I mean, like I said, it had more of a fabricated value then, on top of the fact that silver was so much rarer, so much harder to mine, so much less was mined. I mean, it's like titanium. Titanium is pretty common, but something made from titanium is going to run you, like a titanium sword is going to run thousands upon thousands of dollars because titanium is so hard to work with, Silver at that time was the same type of thing. Silver was very difficult to work with, and it took a highly skilled craftsman. It couldn't be any old laborer who could do it. It's not like, I'm trying to think of a good example of something like that. Anyone could do it around those times, but I don't know. I guess, I can't even think of anything. I'm trying to think of just a really common job that someone have had in Roman times, because I can think of later stuff, But I guess like being a farmer, anyone could be a farmer back then, but very few had the craftsman skills to be, a silversmith, and the ones that did were selling to royalty. So you combine all that stuff, and in Roman times, this, like I said, you would have had to work for 10 days to buy this little bar right here. And yet, with, the amount, if you're on minimum wage right now, the amount you'd earn in 2.5 hours, you could buy this bar with. I mean, because minimum wage is like, what, $7.80 an hour, I think? $7.85 an hour? So around there. I've heard people be like, yeah, man, it's like $9 an hour. I'm like, no, minimum wage is not $9 an hour yet, at least. I don't know if it ever will be. Anyway, my point being, even someone who's very low income could still buy one of these after a few hours of work, as opposed to 10 days of work, you know what I mean? It's a little ridiculous. Like, someone who's earning a decent amount could work for 10 days of paid labor, could buy an ounce of gold nowadays. You know what I mean? That's ridiculous, So back then, this represented 10 days of work. Today, it represents a couple hours. So, that is it for this video. I really do hope you enjoyed. Again, I'm kind of going out on a limb for this one. Usually you guys like those types of videos, so let's see how it does. Yeah, I mean, that is it. Truly now for this one. Peace, love, and of course, much respect.